Hey, what's going on? Dr. Gonzo Boogie here again, back for another video, and this is going to be a special video where I show you guys my entire Blade Runner collection. And Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's definitely my favorite science fiction movie, and I just love everything about it. I just think it's a perfect movie. Love the special effects in it. I think it's some of the best special effects I've ever seen in any movie. I love the story. And I love the acting, and I thought it was directed perfectly. Just, in my opinion, a perfect movie. And since I'm such a big fan of this movie, over the past years or so, I've accumulated a pretty good collection of Blade Runner stuff. And I figured, as quickly as I can, I'll just try to show you guys some of the stuff that I have. And first off, I'm going to start off with the Blu-ray 5-disc edition of Blade Runner. And I really love this. This is probably one of my favorite Blu-rays in my collection. I just started collecting Blu-rays recently, so I don't have the biggest collection. But again, just one of the ones that I'm happiest to have. I actually got a great deal on this when I got this. I basically got this for free, but it was in a broken case. I bought this used at a store called FYE, so I had to buy a new 5-disc case for it. But other than that, I was extremely happy when I picked this up. And this comes with the theatrical cut of the movie. It also comes with the extended version of the theatrical cut. And it comes with the work print version of this movie, which is rare and hard to get. And this is, you can only get it in a couple of the Blade Runner sets, and this is one of them. And it also comes with the director's cut of the movie and the so-called final cut of the movie, which is probably my least favorite cut of the movie to watch. If you're talking about what is the definitive cut of Blade Runner to watch, I think that's everybody has their own opinion on that. I think probably the director's cut is the definitive cut of the movie to watch if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're a little confused about all the different cuts and releases. That's probably the best one to go with. But my personal favorite cut is the US theatrical cut. And to get a little bit more detailed, I actually like the extended version of the theatrical cut a bit more because it has a few extra gore scenes, so I like it for that. But it is an awesome, nice little Blu-ray set, 5-discer. It's got some really cool special features on it. Love it. Alright, next up here is actually the 4-disc edition of Blade Runner on DVD, and this is actually basically the same as the 5-disc version, except it does not come with the work print cut, but it has all the other versions of the movie, the final cut, the director's cut, and the 2 theatrical cuts, but it does not have the rare work print version, and it has all the same special features too. But I've always loved this. It's just a really nice put together set. Just love the way it looks, and it's not that pricey either. You can get this for probably under $10 brand new, this set. And this is the way to go if you're looking to pick this up on DVD, because it has all the versions of the movie along with the final cut. So it's the complete package for a really cheap price. Alright, next up here, I was going to show you guys the VHS tapes I have. And as you can tell, I have a good collection of Blade Runner tapes, and yes, these are all the same movie. Blade Runner never had a sequel, which I'm glad in a way, but at the same time, if it did, I'm sure I would have a bunch of copies of that too. But actually, 3 of these right here are the extended theatrical cut of the movie, which was the standard home video release throughout the late 80s and early 90s. And then right here are a couple different versions of the director's cut that came out in the 90s, and they put a bunch of different releases of this on tape, so I'll show you guys each one. But first off, I'll show you guys the theatrical cut of the movie released on tape. And like I said, this is actually the extended version of the theatrical cut. I don't think you can actually get the standard US theatrical cut on tape, because every release I've ever watched has been the extended version, which I've said before in this video is basically the same as the theatrical cut with just a few extended gore scenes. But from my knowledge, this is the earliest, well, at least this is the earliest version of Blade Runner that I have on tape. Love the cover art on this. And this was released by Embassy. So not rated on here, and it's 119 minutes long, this tape version. Really cool stuff here. Love this tape. Alright, next up, this is very similar looking to this tape. This is the Embassy one, and this is the Nelson release, which was put out probably a year or two after the Embassy release. And this is basically the same, features basically the same artwork on the cover, but the only difference really being the Embassy and the Nelson logo. But I figured I would show them both off anyways. And this one is listed as not rated, and it's also listed as being 117 minutes. So a couple minutes shorter, so maybe this is actually the US theatrical cut, not the extended version. Not too sure about that, actually. Alright, and then next up here is my favorite version of Blade Runner on tape, just because it's basically the only one with a unique cover design. And although I loved the movie poster, my favorite artwork related to the movie, I like this variation on the cover. I think it's cool, and the fact that it shows Harrison Ford running, and the name of the movie is called Blade Runner, for some reason I think works, and it makes for a very dynamic movie cover. So I like this. I think they did a good job with this. And this is actually the copy of the movie that got me obsessed with Blade Runner. Before I had picked this up, I actually picked this up randomly at a thrift store one day, and I picked it up with Highlander and I think Terminator. I just picked up some random 80s action movies, like sci-fi action movies. And when I got home and rewatched this one, because it had been a couple of years since I had seen Blade Runner, I was blown away at how amazing this movie is. And this is the theatrical cut of the movie, so it features a couple of different alternate scenes, and the ending is very different than the director's cut and the final cut. The ending for this cut of the movie is sometimes referred to as the happy ending of the movie, which is kind of funny in a way, but it had, you know, the ending of this is a little bit more upbeat than the director's cut, which leaves you kind of just wondering, well, that's how the way the director's cut kind of ends. This has more of a solid, defined ending to it, which is kind of what I think I liked about it. And this is what got me obsessed with the movie, and this is why the theatrical cut of the movie is my favorite cut of the movie, just for that reason. Alright, next up here I have a few copies of the director's cut, but like I said, they're all the same, just with slight differences, so I'll go through and show you guys, you know, the sides of these. You can see this one here has the older Warner Brothers logo on it, and this one here has the newer one, but features basically the same package design. And then this is probably the last release, the one in the wrapping still, and it features the newer Warner Brothers symbol and a picture of the movie poster at the bottom. So just very slight differences, but those are why I picked all these up, for their slight differences. And these are the covers on them, exactly the same. I don't know if you can see this really good, but a couple of these have red banners at the top of them, special widescreen edition, and the earliest version does not say that at the top. And again, these are all the director's cut of the movie, which is the cut of the movie I would recommend to anybody seeing it for the first time. So that was the Blade Runner tapes, and I have multiple doubles of a lot of these. I just, you know, figured what's the point of showing those off. But Blade Runner, at one point I was so obsessed with Blade Runner. This was probably like a year or a year and a half ago. Basically, anytime I went to a thrift store and I saw a Blade Runner tape for $1 or 50 cents, I would just pick it up. So I have like a big lot of just Blade Runner tapes. Eventually, I plan to try to probably sell some off, because I know a couple of these theatrical cuts of the movie tend to be a little bit more pricey than some of the other releases. Alright, and then next up is the soundtrack, which I love the soundtrack for this movie. It's by Vangelis. He's known basically for his 80s soundtracks he made for a lot of different movies. He did Chariots of Fire and other stuff like that, but this is really the only soundtrack from him that I've ever been interested in, because it's really great science fiction synth music. It's got a lot of like emotion and ambience to it. One of my favorite movie soundtracks ever is definitely one of my favorite movie soundtracks ever. I love the soundtrack for this. Great stuff. Alright, next up here I have the book, the Blade Runner book. And this was, I guess, this is a re-release of the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is actually the book that the movie Blade Runner is based on. So a lot of you people might know the book under that name. But this actually came out around the 25th anniversary of the movie, so I'm guessing this came out around the time the final cut of the movie came out, especially since it uses the final cut movie poster on the front of this, one of the final cut movie posters. So this is really cool, just the book of Blade Runner. I've actually never gotten around to reading this, which is a shame. But one of these days, I definitely plan to sit down and read this. And actually, I think this, yeah, right here, it says, contains 24 pages of new material. So I guess this is a somewhat updated version of the book that probably got re-edited around the time Blade Runner first came out in the 80s. Right, and then we're getting to the end of the collection here, and last up here we got 2 comic books from Marvel, and these are number 1 and 2 of their Blade Runner series. And they actually, I think, went on for about 10 more comics, which I would like to pick up, which kind of sequelize Blade Runner in a way, but these are actually an adaptation of the movie. So part 1 of this adapts the first half of the movie, and part 2 adapts the second half. And these are really cool. I flipped through these and read the first half of this, but I never got around to the second just because I want to keep these in really good condition, so I don't want to be messing around with them too much. But really awesome comic. Great artwork in here. I love Marvel Comics, especially their 80s and 70s movie tie-in comics. I just think they're awesome. So really, some of my favorite stuff actually in my Blade Runner collection. Just so you guys see the cover a little bit better. This is for the first one. Really awesome stuff here. Love comic books too. Alright, next up here, and this is the last for the stuff I have to show you guys here, is the Starlog Magazine, which is kind of a sister magazine, the Fangoria, featuring Blade Runner on the cover. And I actually have maybe 2 or 3 other magazines that have Blade Runner articles on them, or in them, but this is the only one that I have that features Blade Runner on the cover. And right here, sneak preview, Blade Runner, starring Harrison Ford. Really cool stuff. So this came out before the movie even came out. This is actually number 52 of Starlog Magazine, and just a really great magazine. I love Starlog, and if you ever come across any for cheap, highly recommend picking them up, especially if you're a Fangoria fan, because they're in the same exact style as Fangoria, even with the old masks in the back and everything. Just love these older magazines. They're such a flashback in time to flip through. Alright, so that was the collection, but last I also have the poster. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, definitely give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. And I plan to do more of these collection videos. I've done some of these in the past, but I kind of want to redo a lot of my collection videos, because at the time when I made them a year or so ago, my laptop wasn't the best, and there was some background noise in a lot of those videos. Basically, they just weren't the best quality, so I kind of want to update and remake, in a sense, all of my collection videos that I did in the past. So definitely in the next couple months, especially around Halloween time, I'll be going through and showing you guys my George A. Romero Zombie Trilogy collection, my entire collection, my 2001 A Space Odyssey collection, which I've never done before, so that'll be a new one, my Evil Dead collection, David Cronenberg stuff, just a lot of that stuff I want to go through, my Hammer Horror collection, and, update the videos, basically. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and see you guys next time.